And looks like we're still waiting for Beth. Okay, whose last four digits of their telephone number is 8381?
That's me, Gerald. I
Oh.
can't audio my computer, so I have to log in twice.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I was thinking it was you. I just wanted to verify.
Okay.
Okay. And Michael's attempting to connect. You don't see Beth trying to connect, do you, Bill?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, it's 6:02.
Catherine Color has joined us, the 3299 number.
Okay. The person whose last four digits is 3299, can you identify yourself, please?
Hi, Captain. It's Scott with Sunscape.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, we've got a quorum here, and at 6:03, so I am going to call the meeting to order. And okay, so Usha, did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
No, thank you.
Okay. Tina Flores, did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
No, thank you.
Okay. David Flores, did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
Yes, just a public statement.
Okay. And Sherry Johnson, did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
No, thank you.
Okay. And Gerald Burgess, did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
Yes, I need to make a public comment, and then I want to make a comment on item number 2 and number 8.
Number 2 and 8. Okay. And Jimmy, are you going to be my timekeeper tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So David, we'll start with you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Catherine. I just wanted to bring to the attention of the public that Seth Jones had a communications she has violated the communications policy. I brought it to Linda's attention, and I kind of waited to see if anything came of it, and if um, I'm trying to hold my government accountable, you guys accountable, and still it's been about a month and nothing has been done, nothing has been said. So I just wanted to know if the board had any plans on bringing that to light, and what is the policy good for if you guys don't enforce it. Also, just want to bring to the attention of the board and the public that Senate Bill 1588 passed and got signed by the governor, and Section 11 refers to the ACC members that they cannot sit on a board. If you are an ACC member, you cannot sit on that board. So I think, like this district, there has always been a conflict of interest with Catherine sitting on the MWANA board and the ACC. I think that we need to really revisit what we're doing with people, elected officials, in other capacities and on other boards. I think for the public, it should be transparent, and I believe that you guys, whoever is sitting on that board, should resign if you are an elected official in our MUD district. Thank you.
Okay, and Gerald Burgess, you have a 2-minute public comment.
Can you not hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Gerald.
I've been told from a very reliable source that the president of the neighborhood association is Santa Claus. It's from the same source that was used last board meeting that said that Megan was the president of the neighborhood association. If you're looking for the neighborhood association executive committee members, I was also told by a very similar and reliable source that they have moved to the South Pole for the summer for a little R&R. So I'm sure inquiring minds wanted to know. As the Brits say, mind as you go. Second part. Lewis owes no one anything. He paid $500 civil fine. Leave the man alone. Have you no shame or decency? Enough. That's it for the comments.
Agenda item number 2, 2 minutes.
Okay. So riddle me this. Why would a director of the MUD refuse to pay for services rendered from its vendors and contractors that are supported by legitimate invoices? Is it not the legal and moral obligation of the government to pay its bills? A government entity not paying its debt is an abuse of power. Why can't the director take these disputed invoices off camera and resolve them with the vendor in a professional way, instead of wasting time with the taxpayers, wasting the taxpayers' time at board meetings? Other members of the board have refused to participate in this scheme because they are responsible, professional, law-abiding, honorable, trustworthy, and respectable agents of this MUD, and they are committed to the committee's best interest. It appears the real reason for the directors wanting to withhold payments for the MUD's vendors and contractors is to provide for grandstanding and showboating opportunities. Let's finish with that one.
Okay, agenda item number 8.
So why is the MUD focused only on the beachfront property with regards to running a business from a district property? The renters at 1502 Spider Lily are using that property house to operate a landscaping company. This has been going on for about 5 months. On a daily basis, there are 7 to 8 employees' cars parked up and down the street and the driveways, and sometimes in the neighbor's driveway. The landscaping company's cars are constantly blocking the sidewalk. There are multiple commercial trucks and trailers hauling landscaping materials and machineries parked up and down the street in front of the renter's property, in front of their neighbor's property, and in the renter's driveway. They use the garage to store their landscaping equipment, and they use the backyard to store their inventory for their landscaping jobs. At night, a 20-foot commercial truck with a long bed is attached to a 20-foot trailer, which they leave parked on the street overnight, which is against the law in Williamson County. You can look it up. Other times, the 20-foot commercial truck and the 20-foot trailer are both left in the property's owner's driveway. both full of landscaping stuff. These violations need to be addressed and need to be rectified by having all the aforementioned activities cease immediately. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Gerald. And at this time, I don't see anybody else has jumped in on the call. So I am going to close the public comments. And I am going to go to agenda item 2, report from the district manager and affected persons, including payment of bills and invoices and transfer of funds. And I believe, Michael, I am going to turn this over to you so that you can go over what needs to be discussed.
All right. At this point, I'm not sure that I had any checks for approval. There are things that, are in the back burner, but I didn't have any, wasn't bringing any checks to this meeting for approval. So if
Okay.
anyone knew something that I forgot, let me know and I will try to remediate that.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, 2B, quarterly investment reports.
And the issue was on that is at the board meeting, I hadn't sent it out to the subcommittee, the investment subcommittee. So they hadn't had a chance to review it before the board meeting. So I've emailed that to them since then. And if they've had a chance to review it and want to bring it up for approval, that's fine. If they haven't had enough time to review it, then, we can, there's no rush to get it done tonight.
Okay.
So that's Linda and Beth, and Beth's not on the call, right?
Right, she's not on the call, yeah.
But Michael, is that the same report that Allison sent out to us recently?
I believe that she sent out what I had sent you. Let me run back through those emails. Hang on.
Yes, it's in your packet.
What packet?
Why would that have come from Allison?
It's in your invite. It's agenda item number 2B.
2B, yeah, 2B.
Yes, I saw that today. I looked at that today along with the letters.
So I think that got sent to, I don't know if it was meant to be sent to which committee. I think it was sent to the audit committee, which is, because I got it, Linda, I think. So I don't know if that was an error.
Okay, well, the investment
or if it was
committee,
supposed to be the
there's two things. The investment committee deals with the investment reports. We have 2 reports, one for the first quarter, one for the second quarter. That's what Michael's talking about. We have a separate agenda item for the arbitrage studies.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And that's separate from the investment reports.
Okay, Michael, I have not looked at your reports then. I
That's
looked
fine.
at the arbitrage ones.
Understood. And especially with Beth not here, no problem with punting that. And if you want me, I can send them back, send them out again, but they are part of this packet here. So you should be able to have a chance to review them.
I will. I'll have it ready for
Okay.
the next one.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Okay, 2C, delinquencies, termination of service, payment plans, and information to customers regarding options. So does Infomark have anything to tell us about this?
I don't. I believe that everybody is paid except for those 2 customers. We verified that their accounts, there's no usage on those 2 accounts. Everybody else has made payments plans or what have you. So everything's going as planned.
Okay. Okay, 2D, waste management dumpster haul-off event. That was supposed to be scheduled for next month. What do we know? Has that been confirmed?
It is confirmed, Catherine. It was printed on the most recent water bill that came in this week. An
Okay,
announcement, just in the little box, the notes box, it's in there. It is not yet on the online billing system. That would be helpful to have it up there as well when people go to look at their bills. If you put that same note out there. And if Infomark could set up the trailer take turns, once by Anderson Mill Park, once by Lakeline Park, and just announce that it's this weekend. Maybe take advantage of the last 2 days of the week and try to draw some business there.
So the sign was set up today
Okay. Where is it?
and it's on the website. It's at Lakeline Oaks.
Yeah, it is on the website. I did see it there. I'm talking about the billing, the online billing system.
I can get that updated.
Okay.
But the sign is in the district and it is on the website and it did go out in the water bills.
Yep. So I think that's about as much advertisement as we can do. And
Okay.
we'll just start collecting on, is it Saturday, right?
Yes.
Starting at what, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock?
Whatever time.
8. I believe it says 8 on the water bill.
Okay, okay. Agenda item 3, report from the district's landscaper. So I guess that's you, Scott. What kind of report do you got for us tonight?
Hi, sorry, I was on mute. Mine kind of coincides with Herb a little bit, but we've just had some challenges with the rain out in some of the outfalls and ponds and whatnot. So we're finally catching up on those. It did rain today, but we've been able to meet with Herb, walk the ponds, and look at just some side items that he pointed out that we need to be taken care of. And then
Scott, we're gonna have an inspection on the 6th, so we'll be ready by then, right?
yes, sir, we will. We're going to have a pre-inspection on the 2nd to just make sure there's not any last minute things we need to do to get in compliance on some of those items. But we've been making good progress, and happy that the rains have stopped and we've really been able to get in there and clean some of these outfalls out.
Okay, so who's gonna be on the pre-inspection on August 2nd? Who's gonna be participating in that?
So I know that, and yeah, from Sunscape there'll be several of us, but I know Herb might want to speak for who else is coming.
I don't believe Herb's on, but Herb will be there, Infomark will be there, and Sunscapes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna make the assumption that the inspections on August 2nd are gonna be a successful indication of what is gonna happen on August 6th. What's the game plan moving forward, Scott, to make sure that we don't have this problem again?
I think I'm not making any excuses with the weather, but I think just after meeting with Herb this last time, there's some ways that we can combat the taller growing grass in the wet season. And I've looked into some of those, and it even includes just wearing snake chaps and standing in water, weed eating grass down. If that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And so just getting more aggressive with some of the wet areas.
Hey, Scott, did Herb mention to you for Anderson Mill, the Anderson Mill Pond, the canopies on the trail that's covered over there by 2769 or Dyrus, what is it called?
Dees Ranch Road?
Dice Ranch, there you go.
Okay.
Dice Ranch and Old Mill. There's a canopy, there's a grouping or grotto in there that needs the canopy lifted. I don't know if Herb mentioned that to you.
It's on the sidewalk between where you're connecting the two ponds, correct? Is that what we're talking about?
No, it's on the far end, right next to Dice Ranch.
Oh, okay.
By the
Okay.
swing set and by the barbecue.
Oh, over there. Okay, other end. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of obstructions on those little grotto, little trails in there. So
yes, sir. Yep, we did. Herb and I walked that whole pond, and that has not been done yet, but it is on the list to be done.
Okay.
thank you.
So I took the opportunity, I think it was last weekend, to walk Sunchase and take pictures and of issues that I was concerned about, because I know that a couple of years ago we spent a lot of money with a separate project having all of the grapevines that were growing into the canopies cut out. And so I'm going to be sending, do you think the appropriate place, people, is to send it to Herb and have him oversee that? And I'll CC you too, Christy. The places that I think need to be addressed as part of normal maintenance. We've also got a problem in Sunchase where I think it's the second house from the corner on Old Mill. That house has got an unbelievable set of vines that are like tree trunks, but they're in the backyard, but they're growing into the canopies, into Sunchase. And I really think that we need to have somehow reach out to the homeowner at that house and ask permission to cut these invasive vines that are strangling the canopies in Sunchase. So I know that we need to aggressively cut them off on the Sunchase side. I'm hoping that the resident will be amenable to allowing us to take them out from his side too, because they're going to strangle our canopies of our oak trees otherwise. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss about this?
No, I don't. Not for me. No, ma'am.
Okay.
Just, Catherine, I just want to make a point too, and just back off of what Scott said. The timing of this inspection from the county was really bad timing. We just came through 3 months of lots of rain events and heavy rain events, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 inches of rain at a time. So it's no excuse, but it is the truth. All of the detention ponds and the drainage facilities throughout all of Austin have suffered from that. So it's a catch up, and we will do our best to stay on top of it going forward. But part of the issues that we had at these drainage ponds was Mother Nature.
Well, she's always going to be part of the situation.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Agenda item 4, report from the Parks Committee for a park plan process update. Megan, I'm going to hand this off to you.
Sure. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss tonight is just the kind of an update on where we are in the process and what the next steps are, but also to share the just kind of overall results of the survey that was conducted in May. It's been a couple of months now since the survey closed. So I do have a PowerPoint that I can share just so that y'all can see the results. And if you give me a minute, I will share my screen. And, you know, this has the potential to take a while to go through. So I'm going to kind of go through pretty quickly, and then we're going to post the PowerPoint, a full results report, and also just the spreadsheet of results without any identifying information to the website, so that everybody can take their time and look through the results. Okay, so just to remind everyone, the purpose of the park plan survey was to be, first of all, it was the first of what will be 2 surveys as part of this process. So the results that we collected from the first survey are not the only input that we're getting during the planning process. And in addition to that, there have been and will be other opportunities for the public to weigh in on the park planning process. So this presentation is just on the first survey results. The purpose of the first survey was just to generally understand how the parks and ponds are currently used, to get a sense for people's feelings and attitudes about our current park system, and then also just to get some initial direction on people's preferences for the future. So the methodology was there was a three-week response period. Nobody saw any of the results while the survey was open. Nobody saw anything until after the survey was closed, and the 3-week response period was what was decided upon at the beginning. The survey was conducted through the online software SurveyMonkey. Paper copies were available, and some of them were handed out, although nobody turned any in. And the survey was advertised in a number of ways. It was on the district website in a couple places. It was advertised on several group Facebook pages, neighborhood pages, and personal pages. It was advertised a couple of times on Nextdoor. It was advertised through our marquee trailer sign and also a digital LED sign. Those signs were at Noel Park and Lakeline Oaks Park. And then we had signage or flyers, and there's an image on this slide of what those look like at some of the parks and on dog waste stations, and they all had a QR code so that people could link directly from their phone or mobile device to the survey if they were out and about. We also, part of the role of the advisory committee was to help spread the word about the survey. So they did that individually in a number of ways, using their own personal connections, talking to their neighbors, their own social media pages, etc. And then, we had Lakeline Oaks HOA actually sent out an email to all of its residents. And one of our advisory committee members is on the Volente Hills HOA board. So who took the survey? In total, 337 people responded to the.
You still there? Oh,
Sorry, y'all. Lost ya.
yeah.
Let me log back in there to my little thing. Where did you leave off? What did you hear me say last?
You're talking about the number of people who took the survey right there. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like an instant thing. Okay. So 337 respondents in total, but not every respondent answered every question in the survey. So that varied throughout. The demographic questions were intentionally placed at the end of the survey because we viewed them as of secondary importance to the actual park stuff we were asking about. And so typically, because if people are going to stop taking a survey, it's the last questions that suffer. We put the demographic questions at the end. So we got between 249 and 255 respondents for the demographic questions at the end of the survey. We asked about gender, age, household composition, their neighborhood of residence, or if they didn't live in the district, non-district resident, number of years in the district, and home ownership status. So to go through the demographics quickly, in terms of gender, we had 255 respondents, and interestingly, we had twice as many females as males take the survey, which I thought was interesting. The average age of the respondent was 47, and we did have a good range of adults ages taking the survey. The one group of ages that we didn't get was young adults, so 18 to 25. No one who answered the demographic questions was within that age range or group. So that is an area where we're lacking data.
That actually makes sense if you
Household
think about it, but yeah, because that's not really who's going to
does.
be a homeowner or a tenant in their own right in the neighborhood. But keep going.
That's exactly right. And when we get to the last couple questions about ownership, almost everybody who took the survey owns their home. And so that, as opposed to being a renter, so that kind of makes sense. So we did get a range of household types in terms of, who was answering the survey. 56% had minors in the home, and 43% did not. So either they don't have children or their children are grown. And then 33% of the 56 who had minors had young kids, 10 and under, and 23% had older kids, 11 middle school age to 18. So we did get a good range of different household types. We got respondents from all 4 neighborhoods in the district. And we had broken down Andersonville West into 3 different areas just because it's such a large area of the community. And only 11 people reported not living in the district. So we did not get a whole bunch of people not living in the district answering the survey. And we'll come back to that later at the end. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Number of years living in the district, we got a range of people who have lived here for a short time, people who have lived here for a long time, with the average number of years in the district, 11 years. And then, as I said before, almost everybody who answered this question reported owning their home. So the first set of questions in the survey were about park usage. How do people currently use our current park system? So the question was, which of the following parks or ponds do you visit at least once a month? Not surprisingly, Andersonville West Park was reported to have been used the most, followed closely, again, not surprisingly, by Lakeline Oaks Park and Sunchase Park being effectively tied for second most used. I found it interesting that Old Mill Park was reported to be used more than the ponds. And I find that interesting because it's such a small little park with hardly anything in it, but I guess it speaks to the importance of that space for the neighbors who live close by to it. But then many of the ponds were reported to be used more frequently than Astor Pass Park and Valente Hills Park, which are both very tiny little pocket parks. 15% of the respondents reported that they do not use any of the district parks or ponds at least once a month. So I know there were some reports of people were saying they didn't have the option of saying they didn't use parks or ponds, but that's not true. That was on there. So I'm not sure why that was missed. Okay, so, and then one of the things that the advisory committee really tried to do in working with Virginity was to combine closed response questions with a lot of open-ended response questions. And in all, we got, if you combine all of the open-ended responses for the survey, we had over 1,000 open-ended responses. So, and those are really important because they allow people to elaborate on how it is they feel, or why they feel a certain way, or to provide detail that may not always be captured by a closed-ended response. So the first open-ended response was, tell us what you do when you visit the parks or ponds. Again, all of the open-ended responses will be included in the full results report, which will be made available on the website. But what we did was go through and kind of identify the common themes. So this was done instead of a word cloud, because a word cloud's only going to capture if someone uses the exact word over and over again. But when people are talking about things, sometimes they use different words. So if you're talking about park maintenance, for example, you may say maintenance, or you may say you need to clean up the trash, or you need to mow the grass, and so all these different things sort of fall into this theme of better park maintenance, but they wouldn't be captured if you were just searching for the word maintenance. So this is kind of a much more detailed look at the open-ended responses, but basically we're calling them the repeated themes that kept coming up. So the number one most frequently cited use of the parks was walking, hiking, jogging, or trail use. That was mentioned by 182 respondents, or 69% of the 264 people who answered that open-ended question. The second most commonly repeated theme was playing with kids or playing on the playgrounds. And that was mentioned by 52% of the 264 respondents. Other repeated themes that came up, with some regularity were using the parks for socializing, attending events, gatherings, parties, passive activities like sitting, relaxing, meditating, picnics, biking, tennis, and basketball. And then we also wanted to understand, for the parks and ponds that people don't visit, why don't they visit them? Because that tells us important information about what it is that people are looking for in parks, why aren't certain parks being used, etc. So for that one, the most commonly repeated themes were
Oh, we lost you again.
sorry guys, I'm in the forest, so I feel like I'm doing pretty well reporting from the forest. Let me share again. So the most repeated themes for why don't you use the other parks that you don't use was they aren't close enough or inconvenient. A lot of people saying that if I can't walk there, I'm not as likely to use the park, which is really cool, that people want to be able to walk and bike to their parks. That the respondents didn't know about the other parks, heard that a lot, and also that the other parks don't have the right type of amenities for them. We then asked for the people who reported not visiting any parks or ponds in the district, so sorry, guys.
How many bars do you got on your phone?
I actually have a lot. That's why I have a hotspot. So I'm on my computer. We have a really good hotspot. So, all right, I'm gonna try to move this along so I can get through this. Okay, so
Hey, Megan, if you turn your video off, sometimes it helps a lot with the data usage.
That's true. Thank you. Let me do that. Let me see how to do that while I'm sharing.
You might not be able to. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Got it. All right. Okay, so why do people who don't use the parks or ponds at all, why don't they use them? It was that parks don't offer amenities or of use to the respondent, and that included people who said that they don't use the parks because they don't have children, which suggests that those people view the parks as only being valuable to people who have children, and therefore have nothing for them. They have no interest or time, or the respondent didn't know about the district's parks. Then moving on to the section of the survey that related to attitudes about the current park system. So the closed response question was, indicate how much you agree or disagree with the following statements. So we had the district parks and ponds are a valuable part of the community. District parks and ponds are not well maintained. District parks and ponds are accessible for persons with disabilities. I know where to find information about the district's parks and ponds. The district's parks and ponds are good places to socialize. I would like there to be more planned activities at the district's parks and ponds. If I spot a problem at a park or pond, I do not know who to contact, and the district parks and ponds have a good variety of amenities for all users. So I'm sorry I couldn't cram all this on the same slide. If you want me to go back, I will. Overall observations for this data were the vast majority of respondents, 82%, consider our park system a valuable part of the community. The vast majority, 76%, believe parks are a good place to socialize, and 55% would like to see more planned activities. A majority of respondents felt our parks are well maintained, 63%, but over 1/3 of respondents were either neutral on this subject, and 22% felt that was 22%, or felt that they were not well maintained, 15%. And the reason I called that out is because maintenance is a kind of baseline thing that we should be nailing. So 63%, even though the majority said they're well maintained, in my view, that's not high enough. A majority, 61%, reported not knowing who to contact if they spot a problem at a park or pond. And similarly, only 38% of respondents know where to find information about the district's park system. So definitely areas for improvement there. Half of respondents, 51%, felt that parks have a good variety of amenities for all users, but the other half do not. And the district parks and ponds are accessible for persons with disabilities resulted in the most uncertainty in response, with 59% indicating that they are neutral on that subject. So the open-ended response question that followed that was, is there anything else you'd like to share about the current state of our parks and ponds? And we had 160 open-ended responses to that question. The most commonly repeated themes were that we need to improve park maintenance, that people would like to have a water amenity, a pool or splash pad in the district, that people would like to have more amenities for dog owners, off-leash areas, dog water fountains, etc., and that we need to have better communication about our park system. The respondents also used this question to make suggestions about specific parks, which actually I've highlighted later in the presentation. So we can talk about those briefly. The next section of the survey asked preferences for the future of the park system. Again, this is just a first attempt to sort of see what types of things people are most interested in for the future. This is a graph that's probably going to take some time to digest. So you can check it out when we post this. But the question was, there are many different ways we can make our park system better for everyone. Which of the following changes would you like to see? And then there were photo examples for each of these 23 options to help people understand what it was we were talking about. And so the data that I just showed here, a couple observations about it. Enhanced trails and paths, which can be, this is the graph, this is the picture, if you can see my cursor that went with that, the example. And water play areas, here's the picture that went with the example photo that went with that, received the highest number of strongly positive reactions. So 40% and 38% of respondents respectively saying that they really want that. And then on the flip side, the unique features and photo opportunities. So here, this kid on the giant Adirondack chair was the photo example that went with that. And public Wi-Fi, and here's the photo example for that, received the highest number of strongly negative reactions with 25%.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I know. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So 25% and 24% respectively indicating I really don't want this. Although the negative responses, the strong negative, were not as high percentages as the strongly positive responses.
Okay. That surprises me because I think doesn't everybody want public Wi-Fi when they're in the park?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can definitely have a conversation about it, but yeah, no, it surprised me too, Catherine. So this is the same data looked at another way. This is the average response for each of these things. So you can kind of put them in order of like the thing that people highest preference to lowest preference. So number one, and actually by a fair little margin, was enhanced trails and paths. And then we had improved lighting, landscaping and beautification, quiet areas, community events, and then water play and volunteer opportunities were tied for the next place. Natural playscapes, enhanced natural areas, and then so on down. But those were sort of the things that got the top average ratings. So we also had then another open-ended response, which was, what other ideas do you have for improving the district's parks and ponds? And we had 103 people answer that open-ended question. Most common repeated themes were community needs a water amenity or pool splash pad. That was 22 out of the 103. Need for more natural areas, 11 out of the 103. Need for more dog parks or dog amenities. Need for more events and community gatherings. And then tied with that was don't add anything and don't spend more money. And then the next open-ended question was, what are the best parks you've ever visited and what made them so great? 121 people responded to that. Number one most frequently mentioned was Play for All Abilities Park in Round Rock, which is a really awesome park if you've ever been there. Rushy Creek Park in Cedar Park, Elizabeth Milburn Park in Cedar Park, and Zilker Park or Zilker Botanical Garden in Austin. And this, if you've never been to Play for All Abilities, this is their little mini town that they have. It's like a micro town and kids can ride their bikes and go in all the shops, and it's super cute. They have actual like stoplights and stop signs, and it's very cute. Okay, and then for the portion of that question, what made the park so great? Natural beauty or access to nature was mentioned a lot. Wide variety of amenities and inclusivity for everyone was mentioned frequently, and also that the park has a water amenity or a splash pad. And then lastly, just to give people who had something else that they felt like they didn't get to say in other parts of the survey, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? And we only had 48 people respond to that. But of those 48, the commonly repeated themes were just general appreciation and support for our park system, a request not to spend additional money on parks, appreciation for the survey opportunity to provide input, make sure people who don't live in the district don't get to have a say in the future of our parks. And again, I'll talk about that again in a minute. And then keep up with maintenance. So I don't know if we can probably, just in the interest of time, skip this part. This was just people who identified things specific to like specific parks rather than the park system in general. A lot of stuff for Ingersoll West Park, as would be expected. For probably the most commonly repeated park specific thing was for sunshades. A number of people mentioned that they want the playscape replaced in that park. And that was true. We heard that at the Virginity site visit as well from folks. And so let's see. Okay, so real quick, survey limitations and questions raised by residents. So when we're analyzing the results of a survey, we need to, of course, identify what are the limitations to the survey and take them into consideration when we're looking at the results. So survey limitations, Survey respondents were self-selected. So if they heard about the survey, the individual decided whether or not they wanted to take the survey, and that could have something to say about who the person is that influences data in and of itself. So somebody who cares more about parks is probably more likely to take a park survey. As we talked about, the opinions of young adults, 18 to 25, were absent, and women outnumbered men, for what that's worth, 2 to 1. The survey was predominantly online, which of course would make it harder for people who don't really use the internet or aren't internet savvy to take the survey. And even though we did have paper copies available, it wasn't as convenient to do or take or hand in as the online version was. There's of course always the potential for unclear or ambiguous wording of questions. There were a few instances in which respondents said that they didn't understand the question. And certainly respondents can always answer questions based on their own interpretation of the wording, in a way that we weren't able to foresee. And then something that we sort of noticed after the responses came in also was that the survey asked all about the parks in general as a system, rather than about specific parks. And so for some questions, people may not have reported having a strong opinion one way or another, simply because if they only use 1 or 2 parks, they may not have felt like they could answer the question knowledgeably about the entire system. We also had a couple questions that were raised by residents during the survey while the survey was open, so we wanted to address those. So the first question that came up was that since the survey was open to everyone, including people who didn't live in the district, there was concern that non-residents will get a say in the future of our park system, even though they're not paying for it. So a couple of things to say about that. First, the survey was survey 1 was intentionally open to anyone who uses the district park system. Because as we talked about, the whole purpose of the survey, the primary purpose of the survey was to get a sense for people's experiences with our park system, who uses them, what's working in them, where are problems, what observations do people have, and what would make people in general more excited about our parks. And the reality is that there are a lot of people, just like we use Cedar parks all the time, who live right around our district, who use our parks regularly. And we didn't want to discount that those people might have valuable things to say about the parks. But that said, the concern that non-residents will be able to have a say in how we spend our tax dollars is, legitimate. And because of that, we did ask respondents where they live, so that we could consider whether or not there was any difference between the responses of residents, the non-residents. So as we talked about before, only 11 of the people who answered the demographic questions reported not living in the district. And then there were 82 respondents who did not answer the question about where they live. And of course, the people who didn't answer the question about where they live could certainly, potentially, some of them could not live in the district. So because of that, and to address that, since the primary concern relates to how we plan for future improvements, and not necessarily observations about the current park system, we looked closely at the responses of when the part of the question where respondents rated potential future improvements, and we compared the responses with all the data versus data without the 11 non-residents, and then also the data without all the people who didn't answer the question, just in case some of those were non-residents. And what we found is there's effectively no difference in the data that we're getting. So these are the averages compared. So this top one is the average for all the responses, the average without the non-residents, and the average for anybody who is either a non-resident or didn't answer that question. So ultimately, and I had to put it on a couple different slides. And so here it is looked at another way. We rank ordered everything again of those 3 categories of groups, and there's just no meaningful difference in the preferences of residents versus non-residents. So not only is that the case, but this data in and of itself is not going to then dictate what we're going to do in our park system. This is preliminary data to get a sense for people's preferences, what's important to people. It's not a referendum on this is what we're going to do. It's not binding in any way. It's not the only opportunity for input. So I just want to put all that out there, that the advisory committee, of course, takes that very seriously. And we have looked at it very closely. The other concern that came up is that people were concerned that people would take the survey multiple times and skew the results. So how we address this: respondents can only take the survey once from the same device. SurveyMonkey collects the IP addresses of all the respondents, so we can identify if anyone who took the survey from the same network as another respondent. We can identify those. In all, there were 32 instances of duplicate IP addresses in the responses. A couple of them, there were 3 from the same IP, and then there was maybe 1 that there was 4. But we checked all of those where there were duplicates to make sure that they were unique responses. And in effectively every case, it was looked from the data that it was just the case of more than one household member taking the survey. So a wife and a husband taking the survey from the same household. So could somebody, if they really wanted to go out of their way to manipulate the data, could they get around this? I'm sure, of course. But for one, it would be a little odd for somebody to really work that hard to go out of their way to skew the data of a tiny mud district park survey. But to the extent that that's possible, we've looked, I mean, I have spent so much time with this data. I have read every single open-ended comment multiple times, and there's just no evidence to me that the same person is taking the survey over and over again. If they are, then they're clever because they've gone through the effort of changing their responses so it sounds like a different person. And so I don't think that that is a concern. There is one respondent who openly reported in the comment that they had taken the survey 5 times. But there were no instances that I saw of an IP address being repeated that many times. And there don't appear to be instances of the exact same responses being duplicated that many times. So I'm not sure what that was about. But we did look at that closely. So what are we doing next, and how are we analyzing the results? So given the limitations to this, the acknowledged limitations to the study, given the nature of the survey, given the nature of where we are in the process, the objective for the advisory committee at this point is to just look for the key stories or patterns in the results that allow us to then move forward in the process with more in-depth idea exploration. So we're looking not only at the descriptive statistics, percentages, and averages for the closed response questions, but we're also looking across questions. So how responses interrelated with that same respondents' responses to other questions. And we're also paying very close attention to the open-ended responses, because a lot of the story can be found there, for lack of a better word choice. And so we're combining that data with the data collected during Virginity's site visit. And then our objective next is to identify key directions that will inform the next steps in the process, and also survey number 2. So what's next? We're gonna continue with that analysis, identify those key directions for the next phase. We're gonna share all of these survey results to the website, and anybody who provided their email address and wanted to be updated when the results were available will receive a personal email. And then we're going to complete and share the first sections of the plan, which is the summary of existing conditions, results of the site visit, results of the and direction of phase one. Down here, this is the time of the entire process. And here in the idea exploration phase, kind of in the early stages of that. So if you want to stay involved, you can visit the district's project page, and you always email me or Beth with any questions, or if you want to be added to the email list so that you can receive updates on the process. So thanks all for your time, letting me report that.
Okay, so what's your timeline for your next steps with your advisory committee?
So we're gonna, we met the beginning of this month and did some preliminary discussion about the results of the survey and where we were. But because it is so much data, and then because I am away, we were giving some time for the advisory committee to really sit with the data. And then we're gonna meet probably the first part of August. I leave tomorrow to go home. So I'll be home, and then we're going to meet again and kind of compile those key directions in early August and move forward from there.
Okay. Okay, agenda item 5, report from the budget committee. And actually, you know what? I actually want to, Linda, unless you have you disagree, what I'd like to do is put this at the end, because this is where I really want us to spend some time talking about it. So I'm going to jump right now to agenda item 6, report from the Information Management Committee. And I've got 6A, which is the discussion and cost of logistics associated with the installation and permanent monument sign with LED digital display. And I guess my first question is, why is that part of the Information Management Committee? Anybody?
Versus parks?
Yeah, parks or infrastructure. Yeah, it's like, okay, I guess the Information Management Committee is going to handle it. That's fine.
Well, since it's the same people, Beth and I we're
Oh.
it's Beth or me or Beth or me. So it's kind of a cross issue, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
It's information management, but the sign would probably go into park. So, you pick whichever is more appropriate. I put it under information management because I actually think it's more of that than it is a park amenity per se.
Okay.
The reason why we would consider doing it would be for sharing of information and communication versus anything else. But so the gentleman from Focus Digital Displays was supposed to be here tonight, and then he woke up sick this morning. So he couldn't be here, but I will share, and the reason why I asked him to be here, and the reason why this is on the agenda again, is because when we talked about the potential for buying that used sign, the one that we could put on the trailer and move around, the discussion was essentially that the board seemed more interested in potential for permanent sign than in one that would move around, and asked that Beth and I get some more information about what that would cost, etc., and then bring that back to the board. So I can show it. Ben Blackburn shared with me about a permanent sign, and then if we, depending on the discussion, we can have him come to a future meeting or not. So effectively the price, so they did the one for the and that was came in at just under $22,000. It's a double-sided LED. And it has, we would need to adhere to City of Cedar Park sign ordinance. And he had texted me, or he had emailed me rather, all of the information about that. There are certain rules about the maximum square footage of the sign, the percentage, 50%, no more than 50% can be the LED. There are rules about the materials and how the sign has to be designed. There can be no flashing or moving messages. You have the message has to hold for eight seconds per message. And there are certain times of the night that the sign would have to be off. So he has all of those details for, what we'd have to adhere to. We talked about, if it would matter whether we did it in Andersonville West Park versus Lakeline Oaks. Probably not. The sign has to be a minimum of 50 feet from a residential property line. So we'd have to consider that. There are other setback requirements and things, but if what we're looking at predominantly is the cost, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of $22,000.
22K.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like 6B, monthly report from Touchstone.
Let's see. So that was we had talked a couple months ago about Touchstone's report that they're supposed to be doing every month. And they did send us one this month. And Beth and I, because we had a conversation with them about it, they had not been doing it because instead they were just updating the committee every month. They said that they are more than happy to provide the report. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So they sent us one this month so that we could see it.
Megan, if you'd like, I can share it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Christy. That'd be helpful. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it should be on
So
my screen.
it's very brief. It just talks about, what they've done, what to the website, has some very basic statistics on use of the site. And then just kind of some ongoing projects and things that they're working on. So, it's effectively a one-pager. It's not a huge, big, long report, and it will take them, probably well under half an hour to put together each month. But they do bill for it separately. It's not part of a base fee or anything like that. So they bill by the hour. So if the reason we brought it up is because it is an additional charge. It would be an additional charge, not a large one. But if the board thinks that it's valuable and would like to see it every month, we can do it. We didn't necessarily want to put it under the money that we are able to, the between meetings, committee directed stuff between meetings, because it would just be a recurring thing that would happen every month. But we also then didn't want to have them do it and then have it pop up on the bill and have board members question, what is this expense and why are we paying for it every month? So if you think that it's valuable, we can do it. And if not, we cannot do it.
So do you do you have a recommendation as to whether or not this needs to be, somebody needs to be looking at this on a monthly basis?
I mean, I don't know if it needs to be looked at every month, maybe quarterly.
Well, that's
Maybe-
sort of what I was wondering too, is if this needed to be something that was less frequent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the monthly data has an enormous amount of value, at least for me. I think that it could be useful to look at trends over time when there's been time for things to shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so quarterly or 6 months. But I don't know. And the other stuff that's in the report is just stuff that the committee, just kind of sort of committee level stuff, and stuff that Beth and I can just report on at the meeting, or Infomark can report on, or, you know, doesn't necessarily, I don't think, require a dedicated report
Yeah.
that then
I
we're
mean,
paying Touchstone to provide.
yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's like majority of users use search engine to find the district site or using a bookmark. I don't know if that is an important piece of information. You know, majority, what does that mean? So
Yeah, and I wonder if it's, since this is just 1 month worth of data, I bet that is, I would guess that that's different in months where we are actively sharing links on social media for something.
yes.
So Nextdoor or Facebook, if there's something that we shared there, I bet it's, I bet that back during the storm, that was probably different because we were making the effort to go push that information out any way we could and linking people back to the website.
Right. Okay, so this is not currently a recurring monthly report, and you're not making the recommendation that it become one.
That's not that, I don't think it should be. Beth, how do you feel about that?
I think presently, I think you're on track of doing quarterly, you know, and we can look at it again at the next time and see if there's anything that we need to start watching for. But I think right now quarterly is fine. Do we need to take a vote on that, or are we all good with that?
I would like to add that I'm looking at their contract under the statement of work, their services 1B. It says present written status reports to the board at least 3 days prior to their regularly scheduled monthly board meetings. That's part of their statement of work. So I don't know why there's an additional charge for it, because paragraph 2 is additional services, and this is listed under their services. But I agree with you. The report doesn't have anything in it worth of value. So I can't see getting that every month. More interesting to me would be the things that are not fixed yet and what they're doing about that. For instance, the calendar. Why the calendar is not current, or the reservation system, why we can't see what activities are being reserved at the parks, things like that. That's useful information. What they've presented in the example is interesting, but not really useful. So I agree. If that's what they're going to give, then that's not useful information. But if they want to actually give us something we can work with, knowing the status of where they are fixing the web so that it is reflective, for instance, of all the meetings that we have posted on the calendar versus just 2 a month, that would be interesting to know. So I
Well,
would
that's a
encourage,
committee issue. So
I would
if,
encourage the
if you have
committee.
an issue,
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, if you have specific things like that to be addressed, then before the committee, then we can work with Touchstone on that.
So the
But those
committee
are
isn't,
also updates that the
the committee isn't aware of the shortcomings? Like the
committee is aware of a
calendar?
lot of shortcomings on the like the calendar. That now the reservation system, I don't that I would count that as a shortcoming. There's a reason why we're not providing public information about who's reserved facilities.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
not
know that
asking, I'm not
anybody who
asking for
reserved.
that information. I was thinking like the tumbling in the park. Why is that not showing on the reservation system? If it's printed on the paper calendar, it should show in the online reservation system, because obviously it's not confidential information. Like the name of the class, tumbling.
Okay, so
Megan,
the-
we can't hear you, Megan.
And that's, I mean, it's a key issue that I don't think it's necessary to have a report from Touchstone in order to go through and incrementally address issues with like that with the website.
I wasn't wanting them to address the issue. I was hoping they were going to give some kind of an update, a status on where they were with fixing the problem.
Well, they only know about problems that have been brought to them, and the committee hasn't brought that to them as a problem, which is why I say that it's more a committee update than a Touchstone update. Touchstone only addresses issues that are brought before them, and to my knowledge, nobody's asked them to change the reservation system so that it shows reserving what.
Well, I did bring that to Lee's attention a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know how she communicates back to the committee, but there's that real concern of sending too much opinions, what have you. So I'm using other avenues, but if you're not getting it, then I guess I'll send it directly to you.
No, Lee did what she was to do. She brought it to me. I've been
Okay,
on
so you know.
vacation and we haven't had a company meeting. So
We've
I
not
know
had a
Lee
meeting.
did what she was supposed to do. It's a committee issue, so it's not a Touchstone issue per se, if it hasn't been brought yet to Touchstone.
But maybe we should get a committee status report.
So, okay, what I'm hearing is that I don't know if we need a motion or if we just,
So what I'm
what do you
hearing is that
recommend,
we
Catherine
don't,
or
is,
Bill? Do we
yeah,
need a motion to have for touch?
Your motion then would have to be for Touchstone to be waived of their item number 1B of their contract. I think that's a rewrite or an amendment because it is included in their contract.
It's included in their contract to be billed per hour.
No, actually, it's part of their statement of work and their services.
We had a conversation with them about this and they explained it to us. And if it needs to be rewritten to be more clear, we can certainly do that. But they explained it to us and it has never been something that was done as part of a base fee.
And why don't we move this to the next meeting so that when after we have our committee meeting, we can bring it back to the table.
okay. That sounds like a
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, and then you'll be back in town, Megan.
Are you saying that we bring the issue of whether or not to have a report on the?
Well, we'll just talk about, let's just bring this up at the next meeting when you're back and we've had time to have our committee meeting.
Well, this was what
Because-
we talked about with them last month and they said, and we decided they were gonna do it this month, do the reports so everyone on the board could see what it looked like, decide whether or not it's something we wanted them to do every month. and move forward from there. And it sounds like it sounds like the board members do not feel like this is something that should be done every month.
Yes, I agree with that. What they presented, this particular report, I agree, does not need to be seen every month. I agree.
Is
Now-
there something else that you do want them, that we can talk to them about? That you think that the board finds would be valuable data to see?
See, I don't have a problem with if this is supposed to be part of a monthly report that's part of their base fee, that it just stays at the committee level, and if something of interest is important, then you bring it to a meeting. But right now, what I'm seeing here, where it's basically talking about traffic and stuff like that, and things that they've posted, because of course they're going to be posting those things, because that's just part of the standard maintenance of our website. I don't think that is something that needs to be presented every month to the board. So,
Right.
okay. Okay, so I think we're just gonna leave it there, because we're not getting consensus one way or the other. So let's move on to agenda 7, report from the audit committee. And this was the arbitrage analysis proposal, the engagement letter, et cetera, et cetera. So Bill, were you presenting the engagement letter? What's the deal?
Okay, so we have attached to the invite is item 7. We have 2 engagement letters for your arbitrage compliance specialist that we used in the past. One's for your 2005 bond issue, and it's for a $950 fee. The other is for the 2011 bond issue, and it's a $2,950 fee. Primarily, the difference in the fee is the number of years covered.
Okay.
This is the same company we've used in the past to review the records you have on your bond issues, to file a report, so the report's in the file should the IRS ever audit you for your bonds. And so we sent it to the audit committee for review. And I don't know if Linda, if you've had time to look at it, but we're presenting them for approval tonight so that they can be engaged in time to do these reports in a timely fashion.
Okay, so my first question is, we're going to be paying something off in September?
We already paid something off.
Okay, we've already paid it off? Okay, we
Yeah.
paid it off.
And we have
Okay,
another one. We have another one to pay off in 2023.
Right. But my question is, the thing that we just paid off, is that one of these engagement letters? And then that'll be the last time we have to do it?
I believe so.
Okay.
For that bond. I think that was the 2011 series, if I'm not mistaken.
So
I
was
could
it
be
the
wrong. Maybe it was
$900 one or the $2,100 one?
I don't have that open on my screen, so I cannot answer that question.
Okay, well, let's hope it's the $2,100.
But here's the thing. They had to look at both of them because it was in
Right.
that year. And I did look at the stuff that they sent forward, the engagement letters and what have you. And I am not a financial expert, but it absolutely looks legitimate, and it's resembles last year as well. So I would like to move to approve the engagement of the arbitrage compliance specialists along with their analysis proposals in the amount of $3,900.
Okay, can I have a second?
I will second.
Okay. Okay, so I'll ask the question again then, Bill. So next year when we do this, we're only going to have one bond series that's going to have to go through arbitrage, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And we can double check on it, make sure they don't have to cover any other years, but this money from these bond series has all been expended. We're not holding any of this money. We don't have any surplus bond proceeds.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that because my question was in the context of as long as we're still paying on the bond, that we have to go through the exercise. And you're
Yeah.
saying, no, it has to do with whether or not we're holding on to the money still.
Well, it actually has to do with both.
Okay,
So, if the bonds are paid off and we don't have any surplus bond proceeds from those bond issues, then I believe the report stopped at that point.
okay, okay. Okay, so do we have any more discussion? Okay, I'll go ahead and call the vote then. Megan,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and I vote yes too. Okay. So, agenda item 8, report from the DRC committee. Okay, 8A, deed restriction enforcement actions pending with the district attorney and authorization for the district to proceed. What are you
Catherine?
asking? Yes.
Catherine, I put these items on the agenda because last week we had some potential updates that we might be able to make this meeting.
Okay.
So I'm not really aware of any updates, and I'm not aware of any board action on these items. So I'm really not sure that there's anything to do on those two.
Okay. So is that A, B, and C, or are you just referring to A?
I'm referring to all three of them.
Okay.
Didn't we have a letter from one of the attorneys saying they had no recollection or no change in the purpose of that dwelling on? I thought I read something to that effect. Doesn't it concern this?
Well, Art, I sent a confidential email to the board today that had some correspondence related to 8C, but I don't believe there's anything new in there to talk about.
Okay.
I don't think there's any board action today on it.
Okay. Okay. Well, then let's jump back to 5A, and we're going to talk about the budget for next year. So I'm gonna get Michael. Let's talk about this. One of the we had a brief discussion right before he sent the budget in an Excel spreadsheet out to Linda and I. Some important tidbits that came out of that meeting was the appraised value for the district went up 12%. Am I saying that correct, Michael?
Yes, I believe you are.
And then we also had a brief discussion, because one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is, 8B, which is, coming up with how we're going to, because our desire is to try to move part of the solid waste disposal or the fire protection fees off of the monthly water invoice and pay for a portion of that through taxes. And Michael, you mentioned something interesting that I hadn't thought about, and that was that the fire protection is actually a separate line item on the invoice on the water bill, correct?
Yes, it is.
And then you also talked about that when fire protection fees are paid through property taxes, they're a separate line item in the rate order, even though they get rolled into the O&M. Am I saying that correctly?
My recollection of when I did this on another district years back is that it was levied as a separate tax. And so then we added the O&M tax and the fire tax together, and that was the tax that went into the general operating fund. Though I kept, I always knew how much each one was. But Bill, is that your understanding that if we levied the fire protection tax as a tax, or a portion of it as a tax, that's when we are submitting the taxes each year to the county, that it gets a separate line? Because that's my recollection of how it worked on the district where I did this.
Yes, let me address that. On this district, the way it was set up was not through taxes. So you can
Right.
set up a fire protection fee. When you go through the TCEQ originally, you can set it up as a tax. In some districts, I think maybe Blockhouse has a fire
Right.
protection tax. This district was not set up that way. So we have had occasions where we've essentially paid some of the fire protection fees out of the O&M tax, but it's not a separate tax. So it would have to come out of our O&M tax.
Okay.
Oh,
We
okay,
can't-
So you're saying that you only have that option at the beginning?
Yes, well,
Okay.
when you set
That's
up your
the-
fire protection plan, you have that option. And this district was not set up that way. So we can use some O&M tax funds to
Right.
pay the fire protection fee and either lower or eliminate what the residents might pay, but we cannot have a separate fire protection tax at this point.
Okay, so that is not an option to us. You're not allowed to, move back and forth, so to speak. It's like you choose a plan and stay there.
Yeah, or we to do it would be a lot of work to go back and amend it and start.
Okay.
But
Well,
others-
the reason that we were talking about that was, and I think you're correct. Michael was remembering how Blockhouse.
Yes, that was in fact Blockhouse Mud that I was referring
Yes.
to.
Yeah, is that because of the separation, the fire protection tax was not included in the 3.5%, what would be our 3.5%
Well,
cap.
and that was what I said to you is that I'm not sure, but that
Okay.
was possible that was true. Whereas if it's assessed under the M&O tax, that it would obviously not be true. You're limited by the 3.5%. So that was
Okay.
a point I was hoping for clarification on.
Okay.
If it were
Well-
a separate tax.
Well, it sounds like it's moot because we're not going to be able to do it. It's just going to continue to be
Right.
the way it is right now. It's just going to be part. So, Michael, what I'd like you to do is to pull up the budget spreadsheet.
Yep.
So that we can all familiarize ourselves with it. And the important numbers that I remember discussing with you was $427,000 a year is what we're anticipating it's going to cost for waste for our garbage collection in the next budget year.
Yes. And
And-
I started here on the bottom in the taxes, but let me move to
Yeah.
that.
And then, and the other important number, if I remember correctly, was it like
Pressure, this is what-
350K a month is what our reserve is. Was that number right? Am I remembering that number correctly?
That we were working out what the reserve balance should be for a 12-month reserve. Is that the question
Right.
that you were asking?
Well-
Yes, and so
We had a 6 month.
Well, see, that's just it. Right now, we're running a 6-month reserve.
right.
And what we're trying to spin a lot of plates right now because we also are recognizing that we need to start running a larger reserve in anticipation of taking on some larger capital infrastructure improvement projects, and also in having a slightly larger rainy day fund in case we have a major unexpected infrastructure break of some kind. Because we are reaching that point from an age point of view that it is perfectly legitimate and acceptable to be running a larger reserve. Obviously, we can't get there overnight. It's going to take multiple years of budgeting and then planning. Because like I said, we've already started talking about the Hatch lift station that we anticipate is going to need some sort of need a large budget item associated with it. So it's all part of the planning process. But when I was talking with, it was like, okay, Okay, because the 427, that's the magic number that we know we anticipate we're going to be spending on trash services next fiscal year. We're not in a position to move all of it, but we got to come up with a number. Linda and I we'll come up with a recommendation as to how much to move once we start looking at the large numbers. And correct me if I'm wrong. What was the first thing you told me, Michael? Because you said appraised value went up 12%, and to keep everything copacetic the same way, we had to have what was a 0.4 cent rate decrease. Is that
Right, and that's what I'm trying to show here on
Okay.
the, in the middle-ish column, the 2020 taxes, you can see that the total tax rate was 0.3479, 0.2979 of that was M&O, and 0.05 was debt service. And then your financial advisor, now that we had the new certified assessed value and knowing what you're paying off, what you have just paid off and what you'll be paying off for the next 2 years, it says that the debt service tax rate should be 0.0275. And backing into the rate that does not put you over the rollback is 0.2818, down from 0.2979. And I believe I stated that correctly. It's also possible, though, that rate is the revenue neutral rate that is on your average taxpayer, or at least your average homesteader.
Right.
Yeah, and so I shot out that questionnaire to make sure that 0.2818 rate is what I just said it was, which is what I thought it was, what I was assuming it was, which is that it's the rate that keeps your homestead under a 3.5% increase. So that would be the highest rate that you could charge without hitting rollback and then triggering the automatic election. And none of that involves the 8% emergency rate. So that's a whole separate discussion. But
Right.
I hadn't gotten an
We
answer
don't qualify for that, right? We don't qualify for the 8% emergency rate.
Well, whether, yeah, I'm just, I'm not going to take any characterization.
It's
not even
like,
go there.
it'll be
But,
interesting to see how many people decide they're going to go for it, because we've all been in a pandemic, and it was the freeze
the
last February.
snowpocalypse, the freeze
Yeah, it was the freeze
apocalypse,
last
yes.
February. Yeah.
We're very
And,
fortunate, Art, that we don't need it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't need it, right?
We don't
Yeah,
need
and so what we're showing here is that the tax rate would decline by over 11%, that the AV went up 12% and the tax rate will decline by 11%. So in this first run through, based on the information that we have.
And this is, all things being equal, basically all the pieces that are current, not making any changes to the current budget. Am I saying that correctly?
Right. We're making only I walked through the budget and made some changes based on, eyeballing things that have increased. And so, but didn't change particularly any of your projects. I just carried them over. And that is actually what is putting you in deficit. There's 165,000 in projects, other than the 250 for the meter replacement, which my understanding is that you wouldn't be doing that. But obviously these numbers were just carried over from the prior budget. And obviously you're going to decide what you're going to do.
Right.
And so these numbers they're just there as, filling a hole right now, but.
Okay.
But yeah, let me just kind of walk through the framework of the budget. This column here, the actual was how we ended last fiscal year by audit. This column, the adopted budget, FY21, was the budget that you adopted last year. This column, the actuals through June. This ties back to your financials that I presented earlier in the month through June. The projected July through September is me making a series of educated guesses based on experience and budget and the way that things have gone thus far this year, et cetera, to make an estimate about what you'll spend in the next 3 months. And then this column, the total projected, is the total of those 2 columns saying, here's what we're going to do in the course of this, how we'll end this fiscal year. And it's a pretty conservative number. I'm not taking any more additional property taxes. I'm assuming that you're going to spend, more in your projects maybe that you're going to. And then this final column here is me walking through this and kind of quickly working together a budget. And this particular cell, the property taxes, is formalized off of that lower section I was showing first, which says with the new AVs that we've got from the 2 counties, assuming a 98% collection rate and inputting the tax rates that the financial advisor worked up, this is the amount of property tax revenue we can expect. You can see that it's about a little over 100,000 more than last year's budget. And so that's the format of this. And then let's run down to the bottom. And one of the things that this does is it's taking the fund balance that you were at and then showing you where you'll end. And so you budgeted to end at a little over 2 million this year. We're at 3 million right now, but we expect to end the year, based on my series of educated guesses, at a little under 2.5 million. And then this budget shows a deficit of almost 300,000. Most of that is the projects, and that would draw the fund balance down to a little under 2.2 million. So, in one respect, you're going to be drawing in a lot more in tax revenue, but if you're going to do kind of this level of projects, it's not sustainable. And then so the questions about trying to transition funds from the revenue sources that are coming through water onto tax, this is showing that that could be problematic without kind of rethinking a lot of things. So that's kind of the quick and dirty approach. Go ahead.
Catherine, did you get any submissions for budget items, or Michael, did you?
Not yet.
Yeah,
so that's the point of the process that we're in. This was to set up the framework and say, kind of assuming if we didn't make any changes, here's where we're at.
Right.
And now that's what we need to do in this next couple of weeks is all of the things that you do want to change.
Right. We had made a call in the last 2 meetings to start submitting those budget requests so that we would have some idea of what we need to plug in here. And that's why I asked you, had you received anything yet?
Nothing that I've worked into this, and I quite frankly, I don't recall that I've received anything specific saying here are the projects from my from my committee.
Right. We do
have
know
right now project.
We do know what Herb submitted. We know roughly his proposal for designing the fix to the hatch lift station, so we can plug that number in. We now have the grand total of garbage costs. We can plug that in.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list of things that we can plug in, and now that we have this framework, let's start plugging them in and see how it looks.
Art, I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, so that the cost for the lift station is not included in this budget yet.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
And
any
Art,
of the infrastructure changes that we wanted is not included as well.
right?
Correct?
None of those, and the cost of endpoints on the meters and connecting those to the service and all those things that we need to plug in here.
Right.
But we're not.
We need those
But we don't-
costs.
Sorry, Linda. So we don't need to turn it all in though until after we get back from convention, correct?
Right. So yeah, let's talk over the calendar on this. The end is in September. That's when you need to approve both your tax rate and the budget at a September board meeting. And depending on the county, they like it, the first half of the month, but that's not as hard and fast a deadline as it used to be. In order to approve the tax rate, you need to publish it for at least 2 weeks. And so that means typically at an August board meeting, you're setting the tax rate that you're publishing. And that tax rate can be higher than what you end up using, but it can't be lower. So you can set a tax rate that's for publication and then know, well, we're going to be under that, but that gives us some wiggle room unless something comes up in this last month that we need to address. So that's at the August board meeting. And again, has to be 2 weeks of publication between that and whatever September board meeting you're actually approving the tax rate. And so here we are at the end of July, and we're, now in, it's a matter of, weeks where we need to have a firm idea of what tax rate you want to publish. So a firm idea of where the budget is headed. But it doesn't need to be the final budget. The final budget can be in September. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Man, I'm looking at all the things that we're attempting to do all at the same time, and it's like this is going to be. We're going to have to figure out what our priorities are.
Do you have a list of, do you have some stuff that was submitted to you, Catherine?
No, I know. I see right now I'm thinking high level. I am not thinking any committee projects. The only project that I'm thinking, the projects that I'm thinking are we gotta set some, I think we gotta set some money aside to deal with the Hatch Pond. The Hatch lift station. And we have to figure out how to grow our reserves. And then at the same time, figure out how we're going to handle the sleight of hand, or we take something out of the base service fee so that we have a reduction in the water invoice on a monthly basis and pay for it with tax revenue. So those are the projects in my mind that I'm gonna be thinking of. Art, I'm going to let you think of all the infrastructure projects that might need to be handled. Okay.
I'll let you know, but you say that again. I think I missed it. You said that the fire.
We're looking to we're looking to take money out of the base fee and reduce the base fee that we charge on a monthly basis so that residents get a reduction in their monthly bill that is used to pay for waste management. And we're going to make up for that through the O&M. So we got, yeah.
There is something, and Bill will have to, this came up before and I don't remember all the details because it's been too long, but there's something about paying for waste management services outside of that base fee. Then we have to pay taxes on that.
Right.
Versus if it's in the base fee, we don't pay taxes on that. So
yeah, I think we can split it. I think I don't think it's not it's an all or nothing, right, Bill?
Okay, so the clarification is we do not have a separate line item for solid waste services, recycling services to our customers. And the reason we include in the base fee is the comptroller has ruled that because water service is not taxable, anything in the base fee that's not separately broken out is not taxable to our customers. So we don't collect sales tax from our customers on a base fee. If you were to pay some of the waste management fees out of taxes, that really doesn't apply so long as you keep the base fee billed the way it's billed. So you could lower the base fee and pay waste management part of it or all of it out of taxes. It wouldn't change the sales tax issue.
Another question is, does our base fee include any minimal water and sewer?
Well, we came up with a base fee that's partly water and partly sewer. Years ago, we didn't have a sewer base fee at all. So now I think we have $10 in the sewer base fee. But
You have somewhere where that's broken out?
No.
It's on the
hold on.
website. I saw it today.
yeah, it's in the rate order. It's in the rate order. So it's kind of hard to answer your question. The solid waste and recycling fees take up most of your base fees. So there's maybe a little bit in there that is considered a true base fee for service that you typically have. You have a base fee in there for people that use no water. You still have to have it available. So it's a rate making device, basically.
All right, well, we've got a lot of work to do.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
do want to pass on this bit of information. Your financial advisor did respond to me. I just didn't see that the email had come in. And she did state that when I said that the 0.2818 is the maximum that you can charge without hitting into the rollback rate, which triggers the automatic election, was correct. And she included her calculations on that. And so I've got that spreadsheet open if you want to take a look at it. But
1218.
0.2818, this, if I'm sharing correctly, this number right here. So going down from the 2979 down to 2818.
Okay, wait a minute. Am I correctly understanding what you just told us is the maximum rate, the combined rate that we can charge is going to be 0.3093. We can only go down from there.
That is what the financial advisor is saying. And yes, and that's based on the 3.5% cap.
Okay.
So that's our threshold.
So we're looking at max revenue next year of $1.937 million. So we have to figure out how to do everything that we want to do in that number right there.
In less than that number, because we need to
Yes.
store some away.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's more than we had this year.
Yes. Yes. And just to point that out, the revenue total that I was budgeting here is 204,000 more than last year. The problem is that the expenses continue to ramp up. And I put inflators on quite a lot of things. I don't know that they'll necessarily all kick in, but 3% inflators on your garbage, on a lot of different contracts. And so, this is conservative, but it does show that there's a bit of a squeeze here.
Yeah. And Catherine, I looked at it just really briefly today because I didn't have time. It came late.
Yeah, it came late. I apologize.
No problem. And I wasn't ready anyways, but we pay way too much of our revenue for overhead. We really need to get a grip on that. Too big of a percentage of our money is going for overhead expenses. So, we're at a place, luckily, where we can do something about that. So we'll take a really hard look at that and see where we can reduce costs. Not paying multiple contractors to do the same thing, or let's take a real hard look at how much work we have for the year and then see, do we need that much in a budget item for a contractor who has no large projects this year? There are ways to trim it down and make it work and still be able to add to the reserve for that future hatch lift station.
Well, right now, the thing that is sort of like, the only golden part of this I'm thinking is, we had that $250,000 in the meters last year that we didn't spend. And so,
There was
I'm-
actually a lot of things in the budget that didn't happen this year.
yeah,
Right.
That will roll to next year, like the arborist and tree trimming and around
Yeah.
the lights and,
yeah.
and remember, and I don't know, Michael, did you put in here the 95,000 that approximately that Infomark is going to write back to us?
I have not included that yet.
Okay, so there's another almost 100,000 right there.
Yeah, that depends on what happens here in the rest of the fiscal year. I did assume actually that Infomark was going to do, a lot of the meters in this
Yeah, you're
run of the
actually
budget. I don't know how
right,
accurate that was,
Michael.
but I put that in there. Yes.
Yeah, Michael, you're right. The board approved $50,000 of meter purchases a couple of months
Yep.
ago. They're just not in yet, so the invoice hasn't come in.
Right.
Yep.
But we had a $250,000 line item for
Yes,
meters this year.
yes.
So that leaves us 200,000 on the table there.
Right, and that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
So I was looking at that as like, okay, is that 1 month's worth of reserves? Is that how we're going to get there? Yeah.
There'll be something else.
Let me ask you a
And I
question.
would want to point out that that's half of the projected deficit that was in last year's budget. There was a 500K projected deficit this year, and 250K of it was that meter purchase. Taking that out, and the fact that we're running better than budget on most items, and better in revenue, we're projecting only a very small loss this year. So, and probably will exceed that, or it'll probably end up being a positive depending on how everything plays out. But so this budget that I built still has a lot of it has built-in when we have big ticket items on a lot of these these system maintenance lines, and primarily the system maintenance lines. We're running better than budget on most of these, and I carried most of those budgets over, even though we're well under them, because those are the numbers, if something happened, we'd be at. But I definitely can revisit them to see, are these numbers now, grossly inflated? So that'll make the budget look better if we readdress these. And a prime example is the maintenance and repair sewer. If you have some serious maintenance and repair sewer, that 202 number came from history, but we haven't gotten near it in the last several years. This year, right now, I'm projecting that we end at about 76, which is well under half. So that's an example of a big number that's, that is built, that I have baked into the budget that may be excessive. So
leave it there for now, Michael, so
right.
that we can look at it.
Yep.
But those are actually the areas that, that we can actually, we have to budget for something because you just don't know what's going to happen. But there is a lot of extra there. There's a lot of extra.
I agree.
There, so.
Well, in one of the ways that we can handle that is to pare them down to something that it might be more reflective of reality, and then use that difference to create our reserve balance.
Yeah.
And then if, God forbid, we have a major, infrastructure crash of some kind, then that's where that's going to get dealt with.
So let me ask you about, I want to understand this too. The DSF really helped us this year as well, right? Because it's significantly lower.
Well, that's one of the, this is where it gets the legalities, and Bill can obviously chime in. The rules about the tax rates. Part of that's factored in here. We're looking at the net impact to your average taxpayer. And in some ways it's looking at the total bill, and in other ways it's only looking at the O&M rate is what ends up triggering rollback. And so it's very easy for me to misspeak about this, but that 0.2818 rate is the maximum M&O rate that you can get by the calculation of the way that the state has set it up. And so the counties have sent us those forms, your financial advisor worked through them. I'll look back through them, but I've looked through them in the past. They work. And I'll double verify the number, but I'm going to end up there. And so as much as, despite the fact that the debt service rate's going down, your AV rose so much that you need to pull down your M&O rate just so that your average taxpayer doesn't pay more,
Absolutely,
you know,
because we have
3.5% more
We
than
have-
last
we have
year.
room to do that because of the debt services. To get at that
Yeah,
final.
that number would have had to go down a lot more if it weren't for that, I believe.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like Linda said earlier, we have some room to work with, even though we're cut at the knees, we're still good because our debt service went down significantly.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Yeah, you read it right.
Okay, so the debt service, that part of the rate, doesn't have the 3% cap on it, does it?
Right. That the key to that is you are bound and obligated to make your debt service payments. So there are all these rules that your financial advisor follows in setting the debt service rate so that you have sufficient funds to make your bond payments and a sufficient reserve to anticipate future bond payments. Now that you're in the end game here, she's able to draw down. Now she doesn't have to keep that level of reserve. And so, you're paying fewer bonds, only one now instead of three. And she doesn't have to keep a reserve, which is why she can have it cut almost in half this year after already dropping it last year. So, but yeah, you have no control, really no control over that. The financial advisor her hands are tied. There's very little wiggle room there. And so that number is what it is. But
Okay.
sorry if that got off the course of what you were asking me.
Yeah, okay. And then in 2 budget cycles, it's going to be gone.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so
I guess, Catherine, we need the committees to send us their budget requests
right.
that we can plug in. And then the next meeting, we can have it all plugged in and see
And
what
then-
it looks like.
Right. And then what I was going to say is let's take a look at the calendar. Okay. So next week is Beth and I are going to be at Case. Linda, you're going to be in Colorado. Linda, sometime the week of the 9th. Are you back the week of the 9th?
Nope.
Okay. When are you back?
The 15th.
Oh my God! Right before the meetings. Okay.
But I
Okay.
can do a meeting somewhere in there.
Okay.
I'll have Wi-Fi. I'm
Okay.
not
Okay.
wilderness camping.
Okay. Well, then what I would like us to do then is sometime the week of the 9th. And I'm just going to say not on the 10th. I'm just going to say not on the 10th. Let's schedule a meeting with Michael and ourselves, and we can just Zoom something. And give me a time. I'll put it on my work calendar and I'll protect it. And so we'll just find, because I know if you're moving around, you got to plan for where your Wi-Fi is. So
Try to pick a morning.
Okay.
And
let's do the morning of the 11th. How about that?
Let me look here.
And which day of the week is that? The only issue I have is that first weekend of August, that Friday and that Monday, I'll be traveling because I'm going to a family wedding in New Jersey. So if you're scheduling me for that Monday, I don't remember which day it is.
The 11th, but Wednesday the 11th.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Catherine, I need to look at my my TripAdvisor and
okay.
That should be okay, but
okay.
If I've booked something on the 11th, I'll let you know. Right
okay,
now,
so
call it the 11th.
Okay, let's just call it the 11th because the board meetings are the next week. And so this is my way of telling the rest of the board, get your wish list in so that we can get them properly plugged in and have and have what your numbers are, what your wishes are going to be, and then we'll decide whether or not we're going to grant them or not.
Or how we're going to split them out and get them all covered.
Yeah.
We may have to divvy it in a couple of years, but at least it'll all be in there.
Absolutely. I anticipate that the path that we are embarking is going to be a multi-year path to increase our reserves, and do the shifting that we've been talking about. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, where we are next year when we're doing this.
Yep.
Well, the only reason I'm thinking about it is that, what kind of inflation are we going to have, this time next year? What will have happened with our appraised values and all of that?
Well, they'll only go up.
Yeah, they're only going to go up. I agree with that. Okay, so those are all the high level things that I wanted to discuss as it relates to the budget. Was there any other anything else that the other board members wanted some clarification on as it relates to the budget process?
I don't need any clarification, but thank you, Michael, for this excellent starting point and for giving me a spreadsheet so I can change numbers.
And I do have to give you the caveat that I was warned by my superiors that, that this spreadsheet is part of their system.
We will not share it. We will not share
as
it.
As long as that's understood.
Yes.
I did tell them that you guys need something that you can play in, can work with. So
I don't know how any of your other clients would object to, would say anything other than that. So, okay.
Well, I'm sure there are those who feel that, I won't say it. Never mind.
Okay.
Catherine,
Stop
can
sharing?
I ask a question about how in the past, how has the budgeting been done with respect to park and pond stuff, since there's kind of that weird overlap between the Parks Committee and the Infrastructure Committee in terms of especially in terms of the ponds in particular?
Right. And my understanding, I've only, officially done the budgeting just the one last year. Prior to that, it was a prior bookkeeper, and she handled it, she wasn't, I'm not sure exactly how she kept it all together, but my understanding is that on those things that kind of cross over, that, there needs to be some communication, or that that information sent to me, and then if it conflicts, I can send it back and say, hey, it's so that we avoid the walking quorum issue if we have subcommittees that have different members or even overlapping members. But and so the key is just have the subcommittee do what it's going to do, and then I'll come back and if I see things that seem to be the same project or are conflicting, I'll bring that back to who I got something from and say, hey, I can pass informational stuff along, and we can kind of work that out.
Well, and the other thing that I wanted to add to that was and correct me, Art, if I'm misspeaking, the way the infrastructure and the park committees have sort of operated in the past is the infrastructure built it, and then when it was finished, they turned it over and told the Parks Committee to take care of it and maintain it. So
that was the case with the ponds.
Yes, that was with the ponds. So, they beautified the ponds, and then, and Sun Chase was a perfect example of that. They took care of, they beautified Sun Chase, and then
You guys had the flowers.
Yeah, they turned it over to the Parks Committee, and the Parks Committee was, anytime there was issues with irrigation, planting beds, lights in the park, that became a parks problem. Infrastructure didn't deal with it anymore.
Right, and if it was being built and the irrigation was part of the project, then
Right.
yes, it was to the infrastructure. But once the pond is built and it acts like a park, we don't want to say it's a park, but it acts like a park. If it looks like a pig, it's a pig, so then we give it over to you guys.
Yeah, you're right. Right.
The
So any
ponds are
maintenance-
done. I mean, the
Right.
ponds are beautified, so now they're parks. Now the
Yeah.
parks maintain them.
Yeah, yeah. So anytime that there's an issue with irrigation or
Like the
sun-
sidewalk that they're gonna put in and
or
it-
sunscapes running over something, that they're not supposed to, then then it's the Parks Committee that's squawking
But
about it.
if we want to add a deck or a structure or something that's functional to the function of the pond, then it goes back to the infrastructure.
Right. Right. So
Okay, so because of course I'm thinking of the park plan. The park plan is inclusive of the ponds and it's comprehensive in that respect. So thinking about the outcomes of the park planning process, how that relates to future projects, some of those things really overlap with infrastructure. So I'm
Yep,
just
and the
trying to
pond
figure
lining.
out how that all gets sorted out.
Well, in the end, it's going to come out of the same pot of money.
Yep.
And we'll just have
so
to
send
decide.
it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
make it
Send
really
it forward.
simple. I'll talk with Linda and actually you and I will converse and say, well, I think that will be better suited to the park, and then they'll put it in the park budget, That
As
really,
long
that's
as we can capture the number, we can sort out where it belongs.
yeah,
We just need to capture the numbers.
yeah.
Yep. That's it.
I
It all
agree.
comes out in the
Okay.
wash.
Exactly.
Same budget. It's coming
Exactly.
from the same budget, so.
Okay, come on. There we go. Okay, so I think we've covered everything in budget item 5, A and B. So I think we're down to agenda item 9, which is minutes.
So the minutes that you have that you could vote on tonight are the June 14 DRC minutes, the June 23 minutes, and the July 19 DRC minutes. Last week, we had the June 14 and June 23 in your packet. You deferred those, and actually, Linda had some changes to the June 23 minutes that have been incorporated by Allison. And then we added the July 19 DRC minutes that you haven't seen before on the agenda packet. I think Allison sent them out to everybody for comments. So whatever you feel comfortable in approving, we have those 3 available.
I've reviewed and corrected June 23rd and July 19th.
What about June 14th, Linda?
I didn't see June 4th. Is that a DRC? See, the DRC
Yeah.
minutes, I'd have to go back and watch the meetings because they're too old. So I can't do those, but I did the 23rd and July 19th.
I read both too, so if you want to move, I'll second.
I move that we accept the minutes for June 23rd and July 19th with the corrections.
I second that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, so what were the corrections that you made?
Allison sent them. One was, I couldn't tell you. Allison
Well,
sent them to all the boards, so she did send the corrections she made, so they were minor.
Okay,
they
that's really what I was looking for. They
Yeah,
were
no,
minor.
They were minor.
Very
Yeah,
minor.
that's really what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so if we have any more discussion, I'll go ahead and call the vote. And Megan,
Yes.
Art,
Yes,
Linda,
Yes.
Beth.
I haven't read them, so I'm saying I'm not gonna vote.
Okay, and I'll vote yes too. Okay, and we're now at number 10, future board meetings.
And location for the meetings in September.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so where did we end up about finding alternative locations?
Okay. So the Linda reported the ACC is not an option. So
Yeah,
that's off the list. The church, Allison's called them. They haven't called back yet, but their website indicates that they're not having any in-person services or meetings right now.
wow.
So that's questionable. And then Catherine, you were going to give us some contacts at the Anderson Mill
Oh,
Special District. So we haven't called them yet.
okay.
And of course, Infomark is an option that Christie offered last time, but these other options so far, we don't have any.
If,
Well,
if,
a lot of them are dropping off the list, let's put it that way.
if we go to, I heard this evening on the news that that we could be at 5 next week. So I don't think anybody's gonna loan us any space.
Well, the other problem is you have three meetings. They have to commit to 3 evening meetings too. But I mean, we're still working on it, Catherine. If you send us the Anderson Mill
Yeah, I'm
District stuff, we'll
sorry.
call them.
Yeah, it's in my phone. Let me do that right now.
Just while you're looking that up, Catherine, just to give you an update, we are working on the technical side of making sure that we could have the Zoom conference available at our office. So depending on what happens over the next couple of weeks with the COVID ramping back up, we could have 3 board members at the Infomark office and have other board members attend via Zoom by September. But again, I mean, this is something that it's a day by day situation. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We could get an extension on the virtual meetings. I don't know. Bill, what is your thought on that?
Well, there's been no indication. There's been no indication that will change. I mean, obviously, it could. You know, the governor could decide to extend it. Right now, they expire September 1. So I don't think we should count on it being extended right now. I think we need to have at least one meeting location we can go to.
Agreed.
And Christy, keep me involved in your office setting up the technology you described. So it's going to take some coordination with us.
Absolutely.
And Christy, I counted the chairs in our meeting room, and I believe there are 18, 8 on each side and 1 on each end. So that would, I mean, we could handle some overflow, but I think that's where we're at in that room.
I mean, even worst case scenario, if residents did show up and we needed more space, we have a whole office space outside of the conference room that they could be.
No one can sit at my desk though.
You need to clean up your desk.
I couldn't find it anyway, yeah.
So I have a question for you, Bill. So if we do go to stage 5, which sounds like we're going to, and then we do still meet in person, does that mean that we still have to let everybody from the outside in as well with that?
Yes, it's a public meeting. And the governor has issued, you know, you can't require anyone to be vaccinated to enter a public meeting, so we can't pursue that. There is a
force them to wear a mask. Can we all be masked up? So
well,
you can voluntarily wear a mask. We can't force anyone to wear a mask to a government meeting.
Wow.
Well, actually, I heard that by next week that will be a law, though. They're working on it. Well,
that might be
every day. Every day.
Yeah, that may be, but under current provisions now. Now, Christy and Catherine, if Infomark is the place where we meet, and if Infomark has the technological capability to comply with the rules, we could also possibly offer access via Zoom to residents who want to participate in the meeting, so they wouldn't all have to come to the meeting. That would be a detail we'd have to work out. So, you know, having everybody in the same room is a concern, obviously, to some people, and traveling to the meeting location is a concern to some people. But we have to work out what's at Christie's office to be sure that it will actually function the way it needs to before we can open that door.
And will it be a recorded meeting that ends up getting published on the web?
If we have any directors appear virtual through video, it has to be at least an audio recording. So likely, again, this is something we have to coordinate with Infomark, but likely it would be a recording similar to a Zoom recording, but you won't be able to see everybody's individual faces because we won't have any cameras. It will not have to be posted on the website, but I'm assuming the board would want to.
If it was recorded, I think it should be, yes.
So still a lot of questions, Catherine, on the
Yeah.
location and the process, but I think we need to continue to work on that. So if you could stay in touch with us, Catherine,
Yeah.
and we'll stay in touch with Christy, we'll see what we can work out.
I do have another church name for you that's in the area. I'll send that to Allison as well.
Yeah, another location we'd have to put it on a resolution,
Right.
which we could do in August. So yes, send that to Allison. If it's a viable potential location, we'll put on the August agenda resolution to add it for the future at least.
Yeah. It does cost money, by the way. It's $50 a meeting.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue right now.
No.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that they do cost money. But yeah, I'll send that to Allison tomorrow, the name of that other church that's close to us in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, Bill, I sent you a contact card for one of the limited district board members.
All right, thanks.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so so we've talked about the what we're going to try to do, what we're doing for the September meetings, what do we have for the next board meeting is August 16th. Does everybody agree it's a DRC meeting?
Yeah, that's the next scheduled DRC meeting. 16th.
Okay. So, is there anything more to discuss on future board meetings? Okay, with that said, agenda 11, item 11, somebody make a motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Okay, I will second that. And everybody say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Night. Night,
Yes.
John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellis.